Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the James E. Wamesy Show. Nothing much new is going on today. It's my day off from rehab. Just recovering. My good leg's actually pretty sore. Like I think my tendon is a little pulled in the back of my leg. It's been like that for a couple of weeks, but I don't really bring it up. I have mentioned it in rehab, but I don't bring it up in the videos. But anyways, I figure I'd give you a few shout outs to some of my friends and show off some of their products. Now, the first is actually Ben Granoff and Eli Schwab. They have a podcast on YouTube called the Grendelcast. Here, check this out. This is one of the giveaways they were doing. I don't think they have any available anymore. But if you're into Grendel, look into that. Maybe you can find one on eBay. Oh, yeah, this is actually signed by Eli and Ben. They signed down here at the bottom. All right, now let's see what it says. Well, there's a quote from Matt Wagner at the beginning. It says, "Never falter and never look back, except to see how far you've come." And I'll obviously read a quote later from the world's ugliest book. But here's early artwork there. And there's a bio in this fanzine of Matt Wagner. Now Matt has been on their podcast quite a few times. I think he might have even been in the first or maybe the second episode. So they're pretty involved with the creative force. You get some more pinups here. All right, well I'll flip somewhere in the middle. And we'll see what we come up with. Oh, here we go. Here's a little part about the Panda Brothers. I believe Eli may have written this. No, this is actually by Ben. Ben wrote this story. But yeah, check them out. Check out the podcast. I'll put a link to their channel in the description. All right. Then we have Colin Cumry. I'm sorry. And he has no future. Well, he has a future, but his book is called No Future. Now let's take a look at this. Now this is the first page. I actually helped him lay out this building. He did the most of the heavy lifting, but I showed him what you can do with digital effects and stuff. But the creative is 100% him. I have no hand in the actual issue. Just want to make that clear. I don't want to take credit for someone else's work. Here you go. Yeah, he's got like a raw style. I really appreciate this kind of thing when I'm looking for my books. Looking for books to put in my collection. Here, I'll do one more flip on this one. Oh, here we go. You can tell he really went to town on those tones I was talking about as the issue progressed. So that's really cool. The back is blank. So I think it's a little bit of wasted space. I recommend calling. Put your contact info or something back there, just because it's like free advertising for your artwork. All right, and then we have. Let me see here. Here we go. This is Brandon Hayes' collection. This is an anthology by a lot of creators that I know very well. Let's see who we've got here. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Just took me a second there. All right, we got Deja Payne with Orchid. Check out the. First of all, the thing that strikes me the most is the stylized lettering of Orchid on the top there. The art's really great too, and I love frogs, so this is up my alley. Let me show you another page of Deja stuff. Now this story, I believe, is silent. Here we go. Oh yeah, it's definitely silent. There's a lot of blank space there. I can always appreciate when somebody uses blank space in a creative way, which isn't always the case in John Byrne. And her last page. There you go. Once again, speaking of that white space there. All right, let me go back to the contents and see who else we've got here. Okay. Then we have Sam J. Royale. As you all know, Sam created the logo for my comic book. And I still use it up to this day. I think I'm on the 7th issue, and I still use his logo. Now, he is a talented artist in his own right. Oh, yeah, here we go. First, check out his original book, Dishoom. It's actually, I ran an ad for this on the back of my first issue, I believe it was. It's a really good series, really creative, and obviously he created the design for the logo there. That's one of his specialties. What's I say? Black tortoise, white rabbit. All right, let's see what that's all about. All right, here we go. A race, a fight, an embrace, a dance. I really love his use of negative and positive there. That's really cool. He's a really deep fellow. All right. Was that dark and white? Is that what it says at the beginning? Dark and light, I'm sorry. Then it's black and white and life and death at the very end of that page. Then creation and destruction and together always is on the next page here. All right, and then we have an ad for Thready. I don't know if he ever... Well, I do know he actually did publish an issue, but I think he was going to get back to it, but I don't know if it ever happened. All right. All right, then we actually do have Brandon Hayes. Let me see. Yep, here's one Brandon Hayes picture here, or page here. Okay, I'm not going to read you all this text, but you get the idea. This is a really great page layout that's really distinct. It really pops off the page, and that's really what you want. I can't say that I've mastered that at all, but he definitely did. Brandon is a really talented fella. There's some more. And is that another page by him? So this is by, well, he's wrote this story. The writer is Brandon Hayes, and the artist Marco Siraca. Now let me see if he worked on that last story. Like what he did on that story, rather. Obviously he did something. Yeah, that's 100% him. He wrote that and drew that, I believe. All right, so let's check out the Marco Siraca story. Now I don't really know Marco, so check out his work. I think it's pretty good stuff. But like I say, I don't know this fellow. I have no reason to lie. I think it's really cool. And the way he does the interior of that car on that last page is really great. But here's another page. You can really tell like Brandon's stuff was like inspired, like the artist to do this stuff. It's very clunky and messy in a good way. And I really recommend this guy. I hope he's still doing comics. But I just haven't encountered him. Oh, this is brutal. Check out this Klansman getting his brains blown out. That's next level stuff. That's really cool. And now that's the end of that story. Let's see what the next one is. Well, I don't see credits on this page. Let me flip to the back again. I'm sorry. It always takes me the longest to get the front page separate. All right. That is Blood Eagle. Now, this is by my old friend Brian Payne. I should have recognized his artist, but it's been quite a while since we've talked. Oh, let me see who did the cracker pinup. Hold on a second. Oh, yeah, that is Brandon. It's really cool. I'm not used to seeing his working color. That's pretty cool. Let me go sideways here, so you guys can take a look at that. There's some more. Let me go back to Brian here. Check that out. Great stuff. Right, here we go. There's the last page, and there's a pin up there. Or maybe it's the beginning of something new. Let's see. All right. But here is some Andy Manak. Another guy I don't know, but once again, you can see Ben's influence on this fella. Or did I say Ben? I meant Brandon. I'm sorry. Yeah, I really dig this stuff. Especially that last panel there with the eagle in the chair. That's really cool. All right, one more page to go in the whole book here. Oh, there we go. Now, I'm thinking there's probably a Basil Worthington effect there going on. Or at least an influence there. And what are these little squares? Let's see. Okay, Red Lotus Clan, Real Low-Key, Rampaging Lucifer's Kingdom. Let's see. Okay, it looks like those are CDs. Let me get a little closer there so you guys can see those there. Just turn your phone sideways. There you go. And there's a website there at the bottom. It's www.redlotusclan.com. Clan with a K. Let me put that on the screen so you guys can see that. There you go. All right. Now that's everything I've got for the the part where I show off my friend's work. But let me show you some of my artwork. I tore apart some of my spiral bound books because it's so much easier than flipping through them for me. Obviously, how much time could I have gone through that last book there if we just chopped like a minute or two off of it, All right, well, you've probably seen this one before. This is Farmbot. That's part of the comic verse by Steve Peters. Well, the art is all me on this specific piece, but Steve Peters created the character. All right, then we have... oops, I'm sorry. I still have trouble, even though the pages are disconnected. All right, but here's the Max. There you go. Now that one is up for sale. The Farmbot one is spoken for. All right, then we have one of Matan Evan. He is a YouTuber. He was like 17 for like 5 years. That was part of his gimmick. Very funny. Very rude to the right people. Then we have that's also available. Here's one of the Hitman, Bret Hart. He is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And then this guy is the best in the world. Here you go. This is a CM Punk, also available. And this guy was the best, but he's been gone since the 90s. And that's the Notorious B.I.G. Now I drew these all in about 3 days. I got a new paint set like at the beginning of the month, and I really found a creative vibe. You see how almost every picture has that perforated edge on the side there. Like I always, I never draw on the backs of these, you know. So that really tells you how many I did in a row that were really cool. All right. Then I've got Jesse Pinkman, Aaron Paul. I think I kind of captured the likeness, but it's not quite my favorite. I don't usually capture people's likenesses too well. Then we have good old Incredible Hulk. Now I drew this one just as a sample to show somebody my painting technique on Facebook. So that's why it's less finished than most of my stuff. It was just an exercise. Then there's Usagi Yojimbo. I painted this one just for the group on Facebook. I just wanted to have some content to put up there. Here we go, sideways again. There we are. All right, and then here is Mike Herman Trout. I think I did a lot better on this one than I did on the Jesse Pinkman one. I think it actually looks like the actor, and I'd say he looks a little bit like Gollum too. I've gotten some criticism on that on Reddit. And then Walter White, which I'm really not happy with this one. I'd say this one didn't quite work out. There you go. Same with this PJ Harvey one. I think it's a good painting. I just don't think it looks like PJ Harvey. Now, I was looking at a photograph of her when I painted this, but I think this is prettier than you're going to get from the real PJ Harvey. But here's an ugly one. And when I say ugly, I mean good old Nick Cave. I'd say he's one of the uglier guys out there, but I really like this painting, and I think he's got an interesting face. There you are. Another one that wasn't so hot was Rick Mayall, who played Rick Britton on The Young Ones. Also doesn't quite look like him, but I tried to capture some of his expression. Yeah, I'm usually better at capturing original things and making things up. Like I made up this clown here. As you can see, I've been doing that rainy day effect on a lot of these pieces, just to see like how they would come out. I think that looks pretty cool. All right. Then almost last, we have one after this. Here's the Batman. The goddamn Batman. Okay, and now last. Oh, actually, there is one after this thing I'm going to show you then, too. Then I've got the Joker. There you go. And then this one I just did. I did it for a friend. I did it for Bianca Alumar. This is a painting of their character, Ying. There you go. I made it more monstrous than he usually appears. I just decided, it would look right only if I did it my own way. I think that he's a very friendly character, and I highly recommend their comic verse work. Her and Steve Peters. All right, that pretty much sums it up. But here we go again. Ooh, the ugliest book in the world. And let's flip to a random page. Alright, this is Telling the Story Through Design. And the very first quote in this section is by Neil Adams. I always try to find something in whatever it is that I do that challenges different levels of thinking beyond just storytelling design, flow, speed of reading a story, slowness of reading a story, changing the speed at which someone reads the story by changing the design of the story. Well, this is a long quote. One of the things I discovered was that most comic book artists were stuck in a 1950s style of doing comic books. It was in the mid-50s, I guess, that it was decided that it was no longer necessary to draw a page twice the size that it was going to be reproduced. It was decided to draw the page 150% the size that it was going to be reproduced, but all of these artists had been used to drawing the page at 200%. Well, at that size, your field of vision is not so broad that it encompasses the whole page. In fact, even at 150%, it's not that broad. It's not until it's reduced to its comic book size that your field of vision can really concentrate and take in the whole page. So what I decided to do was to design my pages as though they were one composition and use the composition of the page to help me tell a story besides the individual panels. So, by designing the page, you could take the focus of the reader's eye and move it however you wanted to do it. Through design, simple design, nothing complicated or sophisticated. All right, I'd say that's one of the better quotes from the book that I've encountered so far. Well, thank you for tuning in once again, and I'll see you guys next time. If you guys like any of the art, just say what you liked in the comments. Thank you very much.